Hi there, my name's Kirsty Nevitt and I'd like to take you through my presentation and model for online engagement. So my research question is simple and refined. What interventions to pedagogic design increase student engagement within an online postgraduate course? The social justice element of online learning is really interesting. It provides an ease of access, whether you are neurodiverse, physically impaired. It considers those suffering with mental illness, perhaps unable to walk into a large lecture theatre, those with responsibility such as carers and parents, and even those with financial or social challenges moving to London. You can gain a degree from a world-renowned university regardless of location or lifestyle. So the background to my proposition. So my practice, I'm a course leader for the MA Strategic Fashion Marketing online course, which is the second online course in the Fashion Business School of London College of Fashion. It's very much a founding offer in the online provision, and we've got a real curiosity to work out the right model to continue to develop and grow. My rationale is a quest to discover the ultimate pedagogic design for online learning. And it's very much stage one of my research. I see this as being quite a long-term project done through practice-based research over a number of years, both through formal education and informally. I'm doing this through a mode of intervention to test the theory that I'm reading about, to disrupt the curriculum and the classical model, and to focus entirely on the students and their experience. My method is about secondary research to understand the theoretical position, including interventions to encourage engagement, and then primary research applied to gain insight. So, my secondary research. First of all, UAL strategy. So they published the strategy last year for the 10 years between 2022 and 2032, with online learning become very much a definite part of that strategy, and an ambition to offer low residency and online places up to 15,000 students or 5,000 full-time equivalent. I then wanted to look at engagement as being the real focus of my study, and I discovered that engagement and attainment are very much compulsively linked. There's a real ethical stance within our practice and a compassion as teachers that needs to be employed, guided through by Macfarlane, who discovered and looked at the fragility of engagement, how that needs to be maintained. In an online space, Hill, Bunting and Arboin acknowledge belonging and compassion in that space. And engagement was sought through self-efficacy and also through the development of individual points of view. On that basis, I then had a look at critical pedagogy as a grounding theory, because I really believe in removing the oppression from education. And this is kind of anchored further by critical digital pedagogy from Rowell, which looks at that in the online space. So, the flipped classroom, a really big part of removing that oppression. So I looked at Usman et al, and they looked at the traditional versus the classical methods of teaching. And it's very much connected to critical digital pedagogy. They created this taxonomy which looks at the traditional and the flipped classrooms. So it's looking at the students from the early stages of learning where they remember and understand. The teachers are either introducing them to that material in the classroom or they're doing that material within their home preparation in the flipped classroom. You then look at the application, analysing, evaluation and creation. In traditional, that's done through homework and even assessment, but in a flipped classroom, those four stages are very much worked together with teachers and students alike within the classroom. So the key themes for analysis from that summary of my secondary research are engagement, belonging, compassion, attainment, employability and self-efficacy. The interventions, which were the adaptations to increase engagement online learning I designed, were as follows. So using Teams to communicate, so not using Moodle, not using email, but focusing entirely on Teams. And this was connected to compassion, belonging and engagement, and speaking to students in a way that was more informal, that quick and responsive and connected to how they like to communicate in their everyday lives. We looked at a course formative, which is around attainment, self-efficacy and employability. So holistic style and approach to the course and the teaching. the prep and lecture, so looking at a preparation exercise and then a traditional live lecture. So I was testing the classical model's effectiveness in the online space to see if that in fact did land better. I then paused to analyse, and I did that through a range of pulse surveys, and I gained all those insights thematically coded, and then created the weekly provocations as a result of the insights that I gained from the pulse surveys. So this is about, again, that holistic course focus, which is what I was looking to intervene with the course formative. But this is more about a toolkit for the future, really connecting to that employability piece and helping the students tackle real industry challenges. So taking the key themes from the State of Fashion report, transferring them over to the curriculum, and then translating those through questions within each of the Block 2 units. So research methods. So I've looked at methodology and my process. So my methodology is an empirical study based on experience, current, past, and reflection with active learning all encompassed. Using both inductive and deductive reasoning throughout, and a mixed methods form of data collection. Due to the size of my cohort, which is 7 students, I had to do it more in a qualitative lead rather than quant, but I use quant to help me confirm things. So I had a look at some of the data in a quantitative way, but most of it was done with a qualitative lead. And as you can see, it was each intervention followed by a pulse survey, and then all that information pulled together to take it into the focus group and discuss intervention 4 and the previous interventions. So what did I discover? Well, the pulse surveys, engagement and attainment were very much the most repeated themes throughout. Teams were really positively received. They felt connected as a cohort of students and very much with the course team. So belonging and compassion were the key markers. The course formative had a mixed response, but I think that was due to timing, and attainment was very much the key theme, linking a wee bit into employability there as well. And the interactive lesson again had quite a mixed response. So they miss that peer discussion, they like the recognition from the pre-recorded lectures and the interactivity involved in that as well. So within the focus group, there was a really high engagement interaction. It was a very warm and inviting environment. The peer discussions were talked about throughout and are really highly valued. They really love the diversity within the cohort. They talked about assessment knowledge versus course knowledge, which I thought was really interesting. So how they gain knowledge for the assessments, but that time to sit back and reflect on the course knowledge is really important. They were gaining confidence through the individual point of view development, which I focused on since day one, which was brilliant. And engagement by far was the most prominent marker, followed by belonging and then attainment and employability in equal measure. So, conclusions and priorities and a model. So these are my priorities for Block 2. So it's implementing those provocations and the weekly questions with feedback from the students from the focus group. But I've integrated a discussion forum on the asynchronous activities. It's that whole point of a reason to learn and an involvement with the course team, talking about those resources rather than just being blank. Continuing with video feedback, and the students have asked to look at a redesign of our SharePoint, which is our digital campus. Continuing to push how innovative we are with the learning, and then listening, learning ourselves, continuing the practice research, and then with a desire to present with digital learning at the education conference this coming year. So I have created a model for online learning, looking at asynchronous activities first of all. So absolutely, these are the key ingredients: read, watch and listen, which we have, but looking to add in play, and then our forum discussion. The interactive lecture very much remaining, the 15-minute segment with those experiences interspersed, and consideration around that weekly provocation unit question, tying that all in together. So we come into the live sessions and there's that flip classroom, dissecting that lecture from the student's perspective, talking about that unit question again from their perspective, doing an activity based on the learning that was in the pre-recorded lecture, and then a group discussion, pulling all those insights together and getting that diversity of ideas. And then post-synchronously, making sure we close the loop on those discussions so they're locked in and refined. Tracking where the student should be on assessment. Continuing with our video feedback and really working on the peer-to-peer feedback. And all of that is connected by these macro provocations. Thank you very much for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed my presentation and I warmly welcome your questions.